Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I thought I would chat with you guys about something that a lot of people don't want to realize, but it is true. Tracking calories tightly and macros is really only required for people who want to work junk food in. But quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd greatly appreciate that. All right, over to this point, and again, let me be clear, I'm not talking about competitors. I'm not talking about people getting contests ready. We're not talking about weight class athletes. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the average person who just wants to be fit and lean, not fat. And be at a healthy body fat, right? So we get into this whole topic of, the popularity of tracking macros, right? Trying to track macros, weigh everything. This is really only a result of people wanting to work junk food in. In other words, if people want to work in hyper palatable stuff or processed junk, this is what they have to do to be successful. But if you're not doing that, it isn't strictly necessary, right? Or if you don't have target weights, like I am trying to lose weight or gain weight with X amount per week and per month, right? Hard targets. Okay, that's going to require it. But if a person just says, hey, I want to be leaner and fitter, I need to keep leaning out, they could probably just eat really clean and up their activity and get there. And in other words, just their food choices alone. But when I say this, I think people need to realize a lot of the healthy TM is junk also. So if you start removing what a lot of these influencers, you're like, I track all this as my exact calories and macros, and you look at what they eat, it's not all clean. It's not all, healthy. There's a lot of junk in there. And people are like, well, what do you mean? I don't see any junk. And that's how much people have been conditioned, in this industry and community, that they're seeing all the almond milk with the sweetened almond milk they're mixing in, or, all these weird health things like I'm eating these whatever Quest bars or and you're looking at this like this is junk food, right? Of course, it's really easy to overeat all these protein bars and stuff, right? They're still hyper palatable junk just because they have some protein in there. The calories are usually high. They're usually calorie dense. There's still a bunch of processed stuff in there. Right, so you look at that and go, well, that's still junk food. Like this is the stuff people overeat. And so to me, that's not what I would call necessarily clean or healthy eating. It's still hyper palatable, calorie dense. Okay, and that's ultimately what we're looking at. So when I'm talking about eating clean, that means you're not eating hyper palatable, calorie dense processed foods. Okay. And that includes the protein bars. That includes whatever these healthy cereals that people, try to market as healthy. When I say that, I'm saying you're eating chicken, rice, vegetables. Your sauces are all really low calorie to 0 calorie, right? In other words, an example, if you have chicken or some lean ground beef, right? Lean ground beef, 93.7 beef or something, or chicken breast or something like that in rice, maybe brown rice, could be white rice, with vegetables added, and you could add some soy sauce or some salsa or something to it to flavor it, right? That's what I mean by eating clean. So the same thing, or someone's going to make a salad type thing out of it, right? So example, let's say you dice up some meat, some chicken, some steak, whatever meat you happen to like, and some vegetables, some lettuce, some romaine, some avocado and stuff in there. So let's say it's a little higher fat instead of carb the other way. Throw some olives in, right? And then what do you add for flavor? Well, some mustard or salsa, right? This is what I mean by eating clean. You're not adding a bunch of extra calories. There's no high calorie sauces. There's no butter. There's no oils added, okay? This is what I mean by eating clean. Nothing processed. These are all single ingredient foods. That is how I define it. Notice I didn't say it needs to be, organic or anything, but we're talking single ingredient foods that are not calorie dense. If everything you eat is like that, and we're not eating it now, nut butters and stuff will push you over real easy. Let's take the natural peanut butter out and the natural almond butter. We know those can be problematic for a lot of us, right? So take those things out. We're talking lean proteins, fat-free dairy, rice, potatoes, beans, vegetables, fruit. If this is what you eat, you are probably not going to have to track macros or calories. Quite frankly, most people are going to lose body fat if they eat that way year round. Will it be at the rate that they ideally want? Maybe not, but they're going to lose body fat. And they're not going to have to track to do so. And I think that is a take home that a lot of people have to realize. All right. It's tracking becomes more necessary the more junk you try to work in. Now, when I say that, I really do mean those foods. You'll get people who say, well, that didn't work. I've seen people who will say that didn't work, and then I look at what their lifestyle is. I'm like, what are you drinking right now? Oh, whatever, this from Starbucks is. I might be, you're drinking a 400-calorie coffee. You're not eating whole foods. You would have got the black coffee and add a sugar-free sweetener to it. You would have drank it black, or you would have added some Splenda or something else, right? The second you start drinking liquid calories, we're back over into this hyper-palatable, calorie-dense food that you have to track. So and when I say this is what I'm telling people. Like, if you just don't eat the hyper-palatable stuff, like you just avoid hyper-palatable, calorie-dense foods completely and only eat the whole foods, the single ingredient stuff is all your calories, okay? Everything that you have with calories in it falls back into that single ingredient type food, particularly non-calorie dense. Again, peanut butter can get us. We got to be careful there. As long as we're doing this other stuff, most people are going to be close enough that they're either going to recomposition or be losing body fat most of the time. Okay? People are going to generally have a tendency to be lean eventually, no matter what. So when it comes to this whole idea of tracking macros, it really is for people who are trying to work junk food and garbage into their diet. Like, that's the people who have to do it. Again, obviously the exception being a contest prep. But 99% of people out here listening are never going to do a bikini show. They're never going to do a bodybuilding show. They're not doing a modeling photo shoot. Okay? Right? They're not doing these things. So if they're just trying to be lean and athletic and fit, no, you never have to count any of this. If you just need to lose 50 pounds or 100 pounds, you could literally just lift and do cardio and eat a clean whole food diet like I described, and you will eventually get there. So that is the point that I'm making with this. This whole concept of the macro tracking is largely because people still want to eat junk. And yeah, if you want to eat junk and you want to be lean or lose large amounts of body fat, you are probably going to have to track everything with a scale, weigh it, count your macros. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.